gonna unmute this for the audience. I got a lot of stuff going on here, so bear with me, audience, and I appreciate everyone's patience. But we went live on TikTok tonight for the first time. Let me turn off the music. All right, there we go. Welcome back, everybody, to the Attitude for Gratitude live recovery show. Every Friday night, 8 p.m. interactive show down here at We'll Work for Recovery. We got a lot of new things happening. Like I said, I'm trying to do this whole TikTok thing. I finally embraced it, and as you can see, we're doing this right now. She's recording me, I think. I'm not sure. I haven't been on TikTok in about 3 years. I got some requests from some other entities to say, could you please do it on Facebook or on TikTok, because we're having issues on their side of YouTube or Facebook or something. I don't know. You guys know the journey I've been on with this whole technology thing. So I appreciate your patience and bearing with me on all this. Again, We'll Work for Recovery, Attitude for Gratitude, 4026 North Washington, every Friday night. Tonight we have Rick B on the show, and Misty and Jen. We're going to be talking step 3, tradition 3. It's like I said, it's not that conventional as what you'd think. We're going to be sharing some of his stories and experiences with what took him through those steps and traditions. And we'll be interacting like we do every week with whatever questions you guys may have. So now which camera? So I should really have you sitting there and make Rick sit here, but we're good. This week we'll be fine. Bear with me, talk tick, and it is what it is. You guys are my first love. I promise you that. TikTok, as always, if you're struggling, please reach out. You see my number scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now. It is 612-791-9942. If you're struggling, feel free to reach out to me directly. Otherwise, call Intergroup or get to a meeting. I just gave you the address. Our address is scrolling across the bottom as well. But you're in Minnesota. You can't go more than 5 miles without finding a couple meetings every hour of the day. Not 24/7, but there is tons and tons of meetings. Tomorrow morning, there's a meeting called Scars and Tattoos, and it's another fellowship. It's a recovery meeting. It takes place at the Art Shelf at Iktomi Tattoos, 1415 West 35th Street. I talk about New Hope, Alano. That's where I do my men's meeting every Thursday night. Talk about We'll Work for Recovery. They have really big meetings Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 7 p.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Tuesdays, there's a Native American-based or an Indigenous people-based meeting, but anyone's welcome to show up. Thursdays, it's more of a spiritual meeting at 7, and every morning at 6:30 a.m. There are structured recovery meetings here. That's an early morning meeting. It's a real good meeting. Wednesdays at 5 p.m. There's a men's meeting here and a women's meeting here. Basically, what I'm getting at is there are so many different facets of recovery that we have options to go find. We don't gatekeep any of this recovery stuff. You're going to hear me talking about Serenity Village. You're going to hear me talk about Eagle Brook Church, 2218, Fridley, Alano, New Hope, Alano. We'll Work for Recovery. All these different places, because we share about where we get our recovery from. We don't like gatekeep none of this. A lot of it, we do our fellowship, we go out and about, and we like you heard in the advertisement, I needed others to do this, and that's what this program's about, is we find our stories through other people. Tonight, hopefully you can find a little something in what Rick shares about or what Misty or Jen might share about. And if you have questions or anything about it, anything that you want us to talk about, post a question. It's interactive. I'll do my best to get to the questions, but you guys know what it is. We just get into it and we go. Other than that, as always, like if you're struggling tonight and you're having some negative thoughts or whatever, if you've been going through it, like you're not alone. You don't have to be alone. Come on down, find a meeting, get plugged in. And if you don't know how to, call me. My number's there. If I don't answer, call back. Leave me a message.
Can't hear it out there.
I know that I don't have it hooked up out there. If someone has to, this is the best thing. I got to lock my door sometimes. I love it though. Come on down. You can watch us live. Like, check this out. We're in a fishbowl. You see that window out there? So we are like in the zoo, kind of. So yeah, come on down. Be part of that. Come be in the zoo. Be one of the animals. I don't know where I was at. I was telling you, if you're struggling, please reach out. You're worth it. If no one's told you today, like, let me be the one to tell you, like, you're enough. you're worth this. If you're listening to this, like, you're alive. So you have another couple minutes in you to give it another shot. Just keep getting after it. I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for others and me having a little willingness to do some stuff about my disease, my addiction, all that skullduggery crap. I got so blindsided with someone coming in and telling me they couldn't. All right. I think it's time to get after it. I'm enough babbling. If there's anything you guys want, any concerns or any ideas, whatever, just reach out or put it in the comment section. Other than that, like, I think we're going to get into step 3 and tradition 3 tonight with Mr. Rick Bowlby. I almost said his whole last name. We do share that sometimes if the person wants to share that. So let's hop on over to Rick. Or young man, who are you?
I'm Rick, alcoholic.
Rick, alcoholic. Would you get closer to your mic when you talk, if you can? Young lady, who are you?
I'm Misty, alcoholic.
Welcome. And who are you?
Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer. Welcome to the show. No, I'll be holding this now because I'm not on camera now for the remainder of the show, for the most part. So we're doing something a little new tonight, Rick. What we're doing is this TikTok. It's another avenue for people to listen to us and find us. I know it's a little awkward to be holding my phone in your face, but I think moving forward, we'll be able to find another way of doing that where this ties into the computer and I don't have to do this. I know there's people out there laughing at me right now like, what are you talking about? You can do it. It's this easy. I just don't know. So, Rick, we're doing step 3 and tradition 3 tonight. How do you want to kick this off and start talking about it?
I don't know.
Well, I think this would be our 3rd time. This is the 3rd. I checked. This is the 3rd March you've been on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. 3rd time. What I might do. Well, no, you go ahead. I'm thinking of how to get them sound out there. We could pair this up to your phone. You could watch the show and turn it on out there if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I can do that.
All right. All right. So I'm going to undo. Bear with me, audience. I love you guys. You guys are so patient. I know it gets a little choppy with some of this stuff, but Rick he's the go-to. So I'm just going to unmarry it from my phone so it doesn't steal it from you. This is for everyone who comes down here so you can watch the show outside there and hear it. You're good to go. All right, perfect. Let's do this, Rick.
I'm working on it. What is this thing? What's it about?
You ready?
What's step in tradition 3? Step 3.
Well, step 3 is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him.
And that is, a quick question about this with traditions, press, radio, and film. I sometimes get a little worried about how I bring this up. So now I can say, like, hey, this comes out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's not breaking tradition, is that?
No.
I didn't think. It's only if I'm advertising, like, hey, you should really come to Alcoholics Anonymous, or I've yet to define that. I had some old timers give me guff about doing this show and talking about recovery. I didn't see an issue with it because I'm not promoting it. I'm just sharing about my experience.
Right.
Which is okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned.
You can't find it?
No, it's scanning. No.
All right. Let's see here. So one more time, you want to read that? The step 3.
Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him.
Okay. Let's get into it.
What do you think about that?
Made a decision. Well, from everyone's story, I think is a little different. When we ask them, well, what do you think about step 3? Or when you read that to someone, I think it's everyone's experience is different. But for me, read it one more time. Read it one more time.
Tell the story about the frogs.
Well, we'll get there. Made a decision, right?
Yep.
To turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him.
Making a decision. By this point in my recovery, when should a guy be at step 3? Is there some rule when you should be at this step?
Ready, chipping in.
I'm asking you. Is there some guideline or somewhere you should be at step 3 when you walk in these rooms?
Well, I was there right away. I mean, the first step I was done. I knew I was done. So it wasn't difficult for me to move on. I didn't have to prove that I was alcoholic or that my life was unmanageable. It was already proven to me that that was the case. There was no argument anymore.
Okay. You're good.
Next.
So you just want to find the show and then put it up there. I'm sorry, I've been a little detached from that, trying to get people's sound. For you, it was just a no-brainer almost. How would you say?
Well, I got beat. When you get whooped, you get whooped. I mean, that's what it takes. You got to be whooped before you're going to do this. I didn't sit down. The worst part was I was an atheist. So what do you do with that?
Yeah,
Oh, you're
what do
gonna-
you do with this?
Well, you can't. What are you going to do? I'd look at the step. You know, Joe and Charlie made the point in their big book seminars of that when they took the steps out of the book and put them on the wall, we lost the process. There's a whole process in the book to step 3 that you don't see when you look. I remember coming in, I was at 2218, and I walked into the room and I sat down. I was looking at those steps 2 and 3. In fact, I was looking at all of them, but most of them did not look very friendly to me.
Especially being an atheist.
Oh, it was awful. It was just awful.
The
So
word
what do you-
God's in it quite a bit.
What do you do with this stuff then? I mean, and then a guy, there was a guy named Casey in my meeting that I was going to. It was a men's group. And Casey would look at somebody had asked him, they'd say, Casey, will you take the meeting next week? And then he'd look up he'd say, come back in a week. And usually people study and do things like that. He'd look up at the wall after he came back the next week, read the step off the wall, and then talk about how he would work that step as it's written on the wall.
Okay.
Well, I can tell you that when I looked at the third step on the wall, it looked ridiculous. First of all, how are you going to turn your will and your life over to God completely? I mean, how are you going to do that? I couldn't. There was no way I could do it. First of all, I don't even believe in him.
And turning your will over, I think I'm trying to go too deep on this, but because you just said basically where I was at in my head when I first read this was, how do I turn my will? How do you turn your will over?
Well, the step, it's too big on the wall. It's too big. It's too big of a proposition to even consider. Turn my whole will and my life over to the care of God. I looked at it and said, even if I could believe it looked ridiculous, how am I going to do that? I couldn't. There was no way I could do it. We lost the process. When you read the step in the book, it's different than it is on the wall. One thing it says, God as we understood him. Now, I looked up the word understand because a lot of people read it as understand. So I looked it up. Understand is a concept. You can accept or reject concepts quite easily. You can believe one thing today. We can have a conversation and you might change your mind. Conceptually, that's quite easy to do. Okay?
Conceptually.
Yeah. But the step says understood. God as we understood. Understood, when I looked it up, implies an experience. Something happened. You walk in this room, you flip the lights over there on the switch, and the lights come on. You don't have to understand electricity or light bulbs or a vacuum in a bulb or any of that to utilize it. You can walk in, flip the light switch on, and the lights come on. So you can utilize something without understanding it. You
Okay.
experience it, so you know it's true. Once I experienced it, like flipping on the light switch, you know that's what happens when you flip the light switch on.
Okay.
But a concept of God God's a light bulb, God's a doorknob, God's a what Jesus, you can accept or reject that quite easily. But once you experience it, it's a different story.
So our correlating of this to light switch, when you say understood, to say understood. Oh, no, I'm going.
Understood is past tense.
Yes. Yes.
It
Understood.
implies an experience.
You've already had an experience and you already know. So what do you
so
do?
you know. You don't conceptualize. You know. Whether you understand it or not, you know.
You know.
Well.
So what do you do when you are? What did you do?
Well, I can tell you how I got there. It didn't happen that simply.
And then I guess before we even do that, a question I would have, which I know there's people out here listening that are in a position similar to where you're at. What do you suggest to them if they're stuck right now? Like you're saying, they haven't had an experience with it, so they don't understand it, but they're here at this step. What's the suggestion you give to some guy who walks in? Because we're going to hear how you did it and how you got to that.
I don't suggest anything.
Have you heard this before? This is Rick doesn't. He doesn't.
I don't.
Nope.
I don't try and get somebody that I sponsor or I'm trying to help to believe. I don't even play with that. I mean, I sit down in this room of old timers, and they got different beliefs. Most of them might have been Christian or whatever. And I'd listen in meetings and I'd think, I can't believe the way these guys believe. There was a TV show when I was a kid called The Invisible Man. And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, these guys want me to believe in the invisible man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't do it. I couldn't force myself to believe something I didn't believe. How are you going to do that?
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I felt phony. I've never really liked the phony. When I was a kid, I didn't like being phony.
And that's where you would. I'm trying to formulate this somehow, but while you're sitting there with these guys, and are they expecting that you've had this step 3 happen already? Or are you in the midst of it? Or
I'd have no way of knowing that.
And you're not phony, so you're not going to tell them, yeah, I'm on step 4
I'm
now.
not going to try and believe something and try and fake it. You hear that a lot. Fake it till you make it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. There was no way I could do it. I couldn't be phony with it. So,
Right.
So here, I had to have an experience, something that would change me. Now, as an atheist, I can tell you, when good things happened, I took the credit. When bad things happened, I gave it to everybody else. There's no God in that other than myself. I'm just operating that way. All my life, I was like that.
Self-will.
Self-will run riot. Absolutely.
Self-will.
But you see, if you do it with enough enthusiasm, the only thing drunks do, most drunks are enthusiasts. They really are.
Yep.
Until they come into AA, and the only thing they won't do with enthusiasm is the steps.
The work.
Yeah. Oh, I need balance now. That kind of crap.
Yeah.
Why don't you do this with enthusiasm? Oh, no, easy does it. They take the slogans off the wall at the club. Oh, yeah, up there it says easy does it. Well, they use the slogans to kill themselves.
Yeah. He's a guy named Dustin. He listens and he's been in. I know you've met him, but he takes his approach like you're sharing about a lot. In the other fellowship, he would correlate. You go to the drug house. You didn't go in there and sit in the corner and fiddle on your phone. You spoke up. Who's got the good shit? Who? Call. Energy, a lot of action. Then you walk in this room and you're scared to do some work in here. He had a big correlation with that, which kind of what you're saying. We're ambitious out there, but then come into here to do a little work to get better.
I had a big aversion to this, see, because I was an atheist and I really disliked the Christians back then.
Okay.
I mean, I hated them. I don't even know why I hated them. I just did. I got a feeling that it may have had to do with, I thought they were trying to change me, make me be different. And I didn't have any religious training. I have no background in as a child growing up in any kind of religion.
You always say militant atheist.
Militant.
Militant
I mean
atheist.
aggressive. I mean, the Jehovah Witness comes to the door. Come on in, we'll talk. And then I start going after them with my atheism.
I don't know if you've heard Rick's story, but just a side note is he's the one I've heard that militant atheist, and he was like, already your dad, he was big time. This is how you were raised to know your atheism, correct?
Well, it was in
A
a
lot of-
family with communist ideas.
that's what I'm
See,
thinking.
and my dad's friend Joe Stern, he had a little lumber yard, and I worked for him, and I sat in that lumber truck, and these guys were going over to the Soviet Union back in the 70s when you shouldn't be traveling there,
Yeah.
and they were going to Cuba and coming back with the slideshows from the Soviet Union, and it was quite beautiful. I mean, if you looked at,
Right.
Tucker Carlson just did a show about that,
Yeah.
and he
Yep.
came back, he was impressed. Well, I had all that done to me back in the 70s, My dad was bringing this stuff back, and then I'm sitting in Joe's lumber truck working with him from the time I'm 12, 13 years old till I'm in my late 20s. And Joe was a heavyweight. These were labor organizers, and they were pushing their atheism, and he was really a stark raving atheist,
And this is what you were raised around.
This is what I grew up around, and I got the brainwashing big
Right.
time. Not without my permission.
It's just what it turned into, what you were around.
I mean, when I say that, I mean, sometimes people will think that maybe they're an atheist where they've got some beliefs that they were brainwashed with. This did not happen without my permission. I assure you it didn't happen without my permission. I'm not somebody who doesn't think for himself to some degree, okay? But I like the radicalness of it. I like it was different.
Right.
You could walk into a party where everybody's drinking and you're 18 years old and you could be spewing out this crap and
Holding court over there with all the knowledge.
it's
Yep,
just awful,
yep,
just
yep.
awful, And once in a while, somebody would say, "Hey, what do you mean by that?" As I'm spewing out some crap about the evil capitalists and all this stuff.
Regurgitating what these guys have
Yeah,
said.
what they told me, and then
Yep.
and then somebody say, "Hey, what do you mean by that?" And I go, "Well, I don't have an answer." See, and there's nothing worse than somebody pulling your pants down in the middle of a crowd,
Right. Well,
And that's exactly what happened. And it was that's how you know you're brainwashed. You know why? Because you didn't formulate the idea yourself. You picked up somebody else's crap and you're spewing it. We do this in the program too.
we do this.
Yeah.
It runs rampant
Oh yeah.
out in the regular world.
Every once in a while, I hear somebody say something and quote me. It's not even what I said. Not even close. What?
I said, is it better?
I think that's a
I
great
don't know.
point, though, that you make about what you're saying. I haven't heard it worded that way, but you formulating your own idea versus regurgitating what someone else said. knowing you're
But I
brainwashed.
picked up this stuff that was radical. See,
Right.
and it was on the outward boundaries. It
Yep.
was not mainstream.
Yep.
And I didn't want to be mainstream. I wanted to be something else.
Different.
See? Yeah. So here I got this crap going on, and I'm telling you, the brainwashing happened with my permission.
Okay.
That's my whole point of that. People want to think they get brainwashed without their permission. No, you make the decision. You like some aspect of it, you go into it,
Yeah.
whatever it is, So anyway, I've got this crap going on. I'm sitting in that lumber truck getting my atheist training, and I'm aggressive with it. And when the Jehovah Witness comes to the door, I come on in and we'll talk. And I was mean. I was aggressive. I'm not proud of that. These were kind, loving people coming to carry a message of love and hope to a madman. That's not good. But that's where I was at. So for me to even consider step 2 and step 3 was absurd. Then I read the step off the wall, and I had this big sort of just inherent in me, this negativity around step 3.
Just
Turn
a feeling
your
of
will in your life over to the care of God. I just didn't even like the idea of God or any of that. And then it dawned on me one day where this came from. And I was sober quite a while at the time, but maybe 7, 8 years, something like that. When I was a kid in the neighborhood, we went to matinee movies on Saturdays with other kids in the neighborhood. There were 3, 4 of us that'd go. There was one little girl that couldn't go. And then I found out, I got wind that her family was religious. And I'm not going to tell you what religion, because it doesn't matter
Right.
what aspect, but it was that she couldn't do that. And I made a decision. Here, talk about a decision. I made a decision at about 8 years old that if you had anything to do with religion or God, you couldn't have any fun.
This was the opinion you formulated.
Very young, 8 years old. I remember doing it.
Anything involved with religion, it's boring.
Or
It's not fun. You know?
religion or God.
And you realize this during.
No fun. So then I come into AA and I look at the steps, and that was my feeling about step 3. Clearly, if you turn your will and life over to God, you're not going to have any fun anymore. Fun's over. You're going to have to be rigidly good as others tell you you should be good. Now that's a big one for me. As they say I should be good, not as I want to be, but as. So I felt they were putting it on me, imposing that idea on me.
Did you realize at the time of hitting step 3 that you felt this way from your past?
No, I saw it when I was about 8 years sober, and it dawned on me that it was coming from, I was still 8 years old. I had that 8-year-old decision and mentality that was still influencing my perceptions and my decisions in life. Based on, I was still 8. 35 years old and I'm 8, or 40 years old and I'm still 8. You think this stuff doesn't influence you? It really does, but it isn't from somebody else. It was a decision I made. Can't have any fun. So I look at that step on the wall and I go, no thanks. Not interested. I'm not going to turn my will and life over to that jerk. Then I look out into the world and I see all the, just like Bill describes in We Agnostics, he talks about the warring faction. You know, you think about it, animals consuming other animals for food. That's not loving,
No.
you know.
No.
We consume the animals then for our food. And then you die and the worms consume you for their food after you're gone. I mean, this thing looks pretty rough.
Yep.
And then you think, well, a loving, benign creator made this? No, thanks. I just rejected it. Bill had the same problem, and he talks about it in We Agnostics. You know, so it's interesting, and I how do you make sense out of that with a loving, benign creator? Somehow you got to make some sense out of that. Well, I couldn't. There was no way I could. There was no way I was even going to try. So I opened up the big book and I opened it up to chapter 5 as the old timers were talking about. And I went through it by myself, not with a sponsor spoon feeding me his crap, whether it's good crap or bad crap, not somebody else's.
Let us make haste to reassure you. We found that as soon as we were able to lay aside prejudice and express even a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves, we could commence to get results, even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend the power which is God.
See, here's the other thing that's a bit troublesome for a lot of people is the term God. You know, no other religion uses the term God for that creative energy that created all things. They don't. Only Christians.
Hit that second switch on the left down.
So that's kind of a difficult thing for a lot of people too. Just the word, the term God in itself.
Right. Yeah, it holds a lot of weight with tons of people.
Well, it implies a Christian idea,
Mhm.
not a God as, and some people have had a lot of religious training that was aggressive or,
Yeah.
you know, I remember my sponsor told me, he said when he was a kid, and Joseph was 25 years older than I am, and when I met him, and he was 23 years sober. And we got together, this is 37 years ago, and we came together, and we were together for 34 years, till he died recently. And he told me when he was a kid, and he was a raving atheist too, same thing. And you could match our lives right down. It was astonishing as we got to know each other, how similar our lives and our backgrounds were, only he was 25 years ahead of me in age.
You shared this last month on the show about your guys'
Well, maybe.
a lot of, well, I mean,
Mm.
you just, how many similarities there were with you guys.
Tremendous. But anyway, when he was a kid, there was some preacher whose son was acting out in some way, and he whipped him with a buggy whip. And he said right then and there, he was done with religion. Or God. So he threw the baby out with the bathwater. He
Mm.
judged the whole darn thing by what one person did in
Messed
his
it up.
view. And he was like that. And I was a little like that too, but not to the extent he was with things.
I think we hear that a lot though with the messenger. I hear that a lot with people in the program about their experiences that they had when they come in here with the God, especially with the God thing. It was the messenger that wrecked their view on religion.
Right. But that's just ignorance on my part if I do that, because I'm literally throwing the whole thing out because of one person or one
Right.
event or how a certain teacher
Yeah.
taught. You know, there was a gal that I know, she died quite a few years ago now, but she grew up in a Catholic church, and she said she didn't get all this negative stuff that some people pick up from it. She didn't have any of that from going to Catholic school.
Right.
Didn't exist for her. So I don't know. I didn't grow up that way, so I don't have any basis for anything, any
Ill will to-
opinion or anything
okay.
about it.
Yeah.
But all I can tell you is that this was a very difficult position for me, and this didn't come easy. So I opened the big book. And in the big book, there's a process, and we can read some of this if you don't mind.
Yeah,
You
of
know,
course. You know, I love it. If you want a book, I have another one up against the wall in the bottom left, or the big book.
I'm going to jump over some stuff.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm just going to I want to touch on a couple of things, because chapter 5 on page 58.
And he's reading out of a book called Alcoholics Anonymous. Some refer to it as the big book. If you need one, you can get in touch with me and I'll get you one. We'll give you one or sell you one, whatever. Just let us know. But page 50, you're starting at 58.
Well,
It's-
58, it starts out, and this is the way this is written. It says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path.
Rarely.
Rarely. That's interesting, isn't it? He doesn't say never. If you look in Dr. Bob's story, at the end of his story, he says it never fails.
Never. Yep.
If you go about it with one half the zeal you have been in the habit of showing when you're going after a drink. Basically what it says. Pretty close.
Well, didn't they change from, I'm going down different. I was going to say in the first edition, I think they changed a few of those words from,
Not this part.
not that. Okay.
Not this, no. But rarely. So Bill was asked by Chuck C. Chuck Chamberlain was an early fellowship guy, sobered up in 1946. Chuck was a bright light. They used to accuse him of being a water walker.
A water walker?
Yeah.
What is, like Jesus walked on water?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Water
a
walker.
water
I like
walker.
that.
Yeah, that was the term. Yeah. He's a water walker. And they'd accuse him of being that because it was a good way to reject them. See?
Okay.
Just an easy way to just reject them. So anyway, by Chuck's version, this was not Bill who said this. Chuck said he asked Bill why he wrote rarely instead of never have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. And Bill said to him, there's always some drunk who'll prove you wrong if you say never. I'll thoroughly follow your path and fail just to prove you guys are full of crap. That sounds
That's what he
crazy.
said. That's
Sounds crazy though, doesn't it? I'm going to do everything that you said to do, and I'm going to fail just to prove that you guys, because you said never will
that's
somebody fail. So apparently Bill said, we wrote it rarely so we could even bring that lunatic in. Now, he didn't use those words, but no, you might think, no, you wouldn't do that. Nobody would do that. Oh, really? Well, let me tell you something that happened. I was about, this is probably 20 years ago now, but in my home group at 2218, we meet on Thursday nights at 8 in the auditorium.
Yep.
And there was a guy who was coming to our meeting for about 8 years, 7 years sober. And we were out at the retreat in Wayzata putting on a meeting. It's a men's retreat, or it's a men's treatment program. And I don't remember what we were talking, probably about the third step or something, or fourth step. And he says to the group, you know, I heard these guys talking about inventory. He's talking about me and the people in the group. And he says, I knew they were full of crap. He said, I heard them talking about this process all the time. And I had a case built against my mother and my brother, and it was airtight. There was no way. Clearly they were full of crap. So he said, I got so sick of listening to them. He said, I decided to take one of their stupid sheets, four-step
workshop sheet.
and write the inventory, the resentment out. Now, he did this because he didn't want it to work.
He did it to prove him wrong.
He did it to prove us wrong, and it worked. It altered him, and he was trying not to have it happen. So the process itself has something in it that's miraculous, if a person will do it. But that's for next month, the fourth step.
Side note, guy named Tony, who was on our show with his sponsor at 2218 when the show was held there. Well, I'll tell you after. He came in for that reason, to show us. And he was sick of hearing the family say, you need help, you need AA, everyone's saying you need. He's like, okay, I'll go show you. I'll give them 6 months and I'll give it my all and I'll show you. He's got 8 years today.
Yeah.
8 years. He was going to prove us wrong.
No, but this is the human.
I love it.
Especially the alcoholic rebelliousness.
Yeah.
You know?
I think we can all relate when you said that. Like, I will do this to show you.
Well, when
said
Chuck,
never?
when I heard Chuck talk about that, this sentence, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. I thought that isn't real. And then I had that experience with that guy. And he proved it to me that it is an actual thing. So that's why they wrote rarely instead of never, by Chuck's
I like
version anyway.
So the guy came in to show, he did a 4-step workshop basically to show us, hey, listen, this isn't going to work.
Well, he
Mom
just wrote a sheet. He just took one of our sheets and did it.
Yeah, I love it.
So then he goes on and says, those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. They just won't do it. Why? Because they're not beat sufficiently. You have to be whooped before you're going to do this.
It's my story.
And it says, who are these people who won't recover? Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves.
Constitutionally incapable. What does that mean, Rick?
Like the basic constitution of the country, though it formulates the ideas that our country is based in, is the Constitution. So your basic makeup, the constitution of yourself is dishonest. Yeah.
Side note, sorry, I'm sidetracking us. And I know next month we'll really talk about it, but every Wednesday at 2218 at 6:30, there's a 4-step workshop that's been going on for what,
30 years.
30 years, a 4-step workshop. You can show up any Wednesday, and they just go through it. How long of about is it? 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And I've shown up in the middle of. You can show up at any time, but every Wednesday, 6:30, 2218 First Avenue South, they do a 4-step workshop. It's free. You can go there, bring your sponsees. I know we had good turnout last time. Next month we'll talk.
Did you stay through that whole thing
I've been through a few of yours.
completely though?
Yeah.
Did
The
you?
very first time that you came on the show, I felt I was way more involved. It was my due diligence to do the 4-step workshop.
I was
So when I
just
had,
curious. I
yeah,
mean, you don't have to do
it made a
that, but
difference.
I was just curious if you, because I don't remember.
Yeah, I
if you
did.
had,
It made a difference in my recovery, because at the point of me coming in, I'd already done a 4-step, and I didn't do a 4-step the way we did a 4-step.
well, the way we did it was out of this book.
Yeah, well, I did it with one of these new fandangle. It was corrected.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I
talking
mean,
about.
one that was improved.
Improved, yes.
Yeah, those people made improvements.
I mean, and for the most part, I got a lot of what needed. I got a lot off my plate, and it was very beneficial what I did the first time. But I don't think it ever hurt to go through that. You've been doing it continuously for 30 years every Wednesday. It's not going to hurt us to clean out the closet, so to speak.
Well, anyway, so I have to be honest with myself.
Yep.
Now, it's like with my atheist. Think about this. My atheism. When good things happened, I took the credit. When bad things happened, I gave it to everybody else. That was not honest with myself. That was taking credit for things that probably had nothing to do with me, but they were good. So I was willing to take the credit. But if it was bad, you were going to get it. So I wasn't honest with myself in that sense either. So it's not really lying and stealing we're talking about. We're talking about self-deception. So I have to take a look at my self-deception. Now, you might not think you have self-deception. I mean, I don't lie to myself. I lie to everybody else. That's not news. But I tell myself the truth. I believe that. I really did. I
You
believe
did
that, yeah.
in your midst of your alcoholism.
Oh, I really believed that. I knew I was dishonest with other people. That was not news to me. But I didn't lie to myself. And I think when I got sober too, I looked at it, I thought, well, how can you lie to yourself? If you lied to yourself, you'd know you were lying.
I get my head. I just did a whole thing in my head. But the when you lie about things well, I guess a lie is that you knew when you're BSing people, but in your heart you knew you didn't lie to yourself about what you're telling other people.
Well,
You didn't see what I'm saying.
It's like if you got up this morning and said, I think I'm just going to lie to myself. You'd know you were lying to yourself.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So what we're talking about is self-deception. So if you don't think you have self-deception, I would say, how do you know? How would you know you don't have self-deception? Isn't self-deception the guy who's got it don't know it? By definition, that's what the word means.
Yep.
You're unaware that you're self-deceived. Well, I was unaware. I was unaware that when good things happened, I took the credit. I had no awareness there was any power greater than myself who might be pulling some strings. It was always me. I was just dishonest with myself,
Right.
believing that so this is one area. One area. There were many.
You remember we're on page 58 of the big book. We're just in about the third sentence of chapter 5, how it works.
So anyway, you ever been wrong when you were sure you were right?
Yes. And I didn't realize what you meant until you shared a story about a dresser and some money. Could you explain what you're talking about right now? What do you mean? What do you mean when you say, because I've regurgitated that story to so many people to explain, your feelings are valid by the story you tell yourself. How you're feeling is valid by the story you're telling yourself. But is the story you're telling yourself correct?
Is it accurate?
Is it accurate? So
You
I'll
say,
shut
yeah, it's
up now.
accurate. Yeah. I'll tell you all about it. Good. That's the first 3 columns on page 65, but we're not talking about the inventory. So here, the dishonesty, what he's talking about is when I was a teenager, I was drinking with a guy in my living room. We got drunk and I woke up the next morning and he's gone and my money's gone. And so he ripped me off. I was really pissed, man. I wanted to get a hold of this guy and like with a baseball bat, have a talk, And it was a lot of money to me at the time. And so I called up the people who introduced me to him, and nobody knew him. He just kind of blew in, grabbed my money, blew out. But I wanted to make sure everybody knew what a thief he was.
What do you mean? Like drag his name
I
through the
just
mud?
told him what this guy ripped me off. This is what happened, and I made 2-3 phone calls and made sure I slandered him up pretty good. Nobody seemed to know him. At least they wouldn't tell me who he was or something. I don't know. But that was the end of that. A couple of months go by. I found my money. I hid it in a drawer when I was drunk, and I forgot that I did it. And when it came up missing, I automatically blamed him, not me. You see, I used to black out all the time when I drank. And of course, I did that night. And when the money came up missing, it was automatically somebody else.
He did it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now I find it. And I'm clearly wrong when I would have been anything I was right. Well, if you ever had an experience like that, how many things could I be wrong about right now? And I haven't found out yet. Now, I hear people around AA rooms, I think this is obnoxious. They say things like, well, you're just wrong about everything. That's just absurd. It really is such a put down to newcomers.
You're right.
To
It
talk
is.
to guys that way.
Absurd.
You're not wrong about it. Not everything you ever thought before you got sober was wrong. I mean, it is so obnoxious to talk. The old timers at 2218 would never talk to you that way. They just weren't that way. They would never, ever put a newcomer down, man. They were very sensitive to that, and they knew
Cradled you.
Yeah, they wouldn't talk to you. I mean, they'd be straight up with you, but they weren't going to put you down.
Right.
That just wasn't.
A lot of I can say it, my life changed, but a lot of the way things were viewed through my eyes and about almost a majority of things in my life changed after you shared that story on the podcast the first time about the money on the dresser. Your feelings, until you found that money, your feelings were valid.
Well, I had the idea. You got to understand. I had the idea that I'd black out and that he might steal my money. So I already had the idea that might happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I hit it, I was drunk enough that I didn't remember it.
And that was so many drugs, so many packages.
Until 2 months later. See, and then it shows up. Now you can't deny that you're wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
You're clearly wrong. Now, do you think I called the people up that I slandered them to? No, of course not. A couple of months have gone by. I don't admit nothing.
Yeah.
You could catch me in the act and I'd deny it.
No, this isn't clear.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. You going to believe me or your lying eyes?
right. I like that one. Yeah.
But this is the kind of insanity. So this is a dishonesty that some of which I've had, but on to the third step here, so you get into this. I got to be honest with myself. That's a key idea. And then you jump over to page 62, actually the 60, right in the middle of the page, where it says our description of the alcoholic. What's that, Misty?
Chapters 1 through 3.
It's the first 3
Chapters of
in the
big
book. Yeah. That's where they describe what an alcoholic is.
Our description of the alcoholic you can find in chapters 1 through 3 in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah. That's where they describe what an alcoholic is. They didn't know what an alcoholic was when they wrote this book. People saw the effects of alcoholism, but they didn't know why. So they spent 3 chapters. Our description of the alcoholic is the first 3 chapters. Then you got what? The chapter to the agnostic.
Chapter 4
Yeah.
describes agnostic,
What's agnostic mean?
not knowing.
Yep. Comes from the root word gnosis, which means knowing.
Hey, say that again. The definition of agnostic.
Comes from the root word gnosis, which means knowing.
Okay.
Aldous Huxley apparently was the one who coined this phrase.
Agnostic.
Agnostic means I don't know. Not knowing. So Chapter 4 is designated to the guy who doesn't know if there's a power greater than himself. May not be an atheist, maybe just agnostic. And then we get what? In our personal adventures. My personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. And what's that?
A good whooping.
We're alcoholics.
We've been there.
Well, isn't that what that is?
A good
My
whooping.
personal adventures before and after have made clear these 3 pertinent ideas. So we got A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives, right? And that's
Step 1.
another way of saying step 1. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism.
Step 2.
That's step 2. Another way of saying step 2.
Mm-hmm.
And C, that God could and would if he were sought.
Those trace.
And that's what?
2.5.
2.5.
Yeah, 2.5.
Almost there.
So then he says, being convinced of what?
Steps 1 through 3.
A, B, and C.
Mhm.
Yeah. Then we were at step 3. Being convinced. Nobody had to convince me of that. That was clear as a bell that I was convinced of A, B, and C by the time I walked into treatment. Which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understood him, as we experience him. And here again, that word God is kind of rough.
I'm sorry, we're getting interrupted real quick here, and please hold our spots here. This here, you guys have yet to meet Chuck. He is our resident soap maker.
Oh, yeah.
He makes this soap called the Armor of Yah. There's a soap factory upstairs. Serious. He puts this together and he makes it for our guests. Here's a bar of soap for you, Rick.
It's called the Armor of Yah.
Yep. Here's for you, Misty.
Thank
The
you.
Soap of Hope.
The soap of hope. He prays into it, prays over it, prays about it. It's all natural. Shared about it earlier before you got here. But it's a beautiful product.
Thank you so much.
Once you use it, you'll see. You'll like it. Guarantee it. Everyone loves this soap. It's a beautiful thing. Chuck, I want to congratulate you on 20 plus days of no reefers in your body.
Yeah, it's been,
He's on a journey.
let's see, I haven't, January, February, March 25th is my day.
Oh,
That'll be, yeah.
my mom's birthday is March 25th.
That'll be your 30 days, you mean?
That's, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's so funny that you should say that. A lot of people have been saying like that's their dad's birthday or their sober date or maybe there's something to it.
Chucky, thank you, brother. I love you.
I know you're gonna kick me out of here.
No, yeah, of course I am. I love you, brother. Thank you so
I love
much.
you too.
We'll talk more about this near the end, so tune into the show.
And I just hope that whoever uses this, that you will be uplifted and refreshed, and that there'll be a timely message on the there. It's more than a soap. It's the message that it's like it's the message that I really want to get out there.
You've been making the soap for about a dozen years now, or how long?
13.
13 years. I love it. Thank you, Chucky.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, that was intermission. Sorry about that, Rick.
Okay, sorry guys.
No, you're good. Love you, Chucky.
I love you too.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys.
So it
But
says,
I want my own.
being convinced we were at step 3. Right after the ABCs, right?
Yep.
So being convinced of A, B, and C, we're at step 3. That was quick, huh? So we're at step 3,
Step 3.
which is, anyway, it says just what do we mean by that and just what do we do? So just what do we mean by that and just what do we do? Now, all over the fellowship, when I was going to a lot of outside meetings, maybe it's changed. I don't know if it has or not, because I don't do as many outside meetings as I used to. But you'd hear people say things like, well, you just make a decision. You don't have to do anything. It's easy. Third step's easy. Just make a decision. But that's not what we just read. This says just what do we mean by that and just what do we do? So we do something. Misty was talking about a story that used to, I don't know if it's still going around much, but people would say, a guy would say, well, he'd use this as an example of the third step. He'd say, 3 frogs sitting on a log. One decides to jump. How many are left?
2.
3.
Well, somebody would say 2,
Yeah.
like
No,
that.
we play the game though. It's 2. But yeah,
You know
it's
what I'd
not
say?
2.
You know what I'd say if I heard somebody telling that story?
What?
I'd say 4. Just to irritate him,
Just
because I don't like his story. And I'll tell you why I don't like it. Because he says, no, there's still 3, right? Because he only made a decision. Now, what does that imply?
No action.
Now, no action. You just make a decision and you sit on your log. That's why I don't like the story. Because the implication is, and we just read what the truth is, just what do we mean by that and just what do we do? So you don't just make a decision and then not do anything. Now, why is that a problem? Because it's really not a decision. A decision is not a decision until you put action to it. It's an intention.
Okay. I didn't know how to pose the question, but okay, the answer is it's an intention.
Yeah, you can intend on jumping,
But you didn't make the decision until you
did it.
did it. Okay.
So it's just, here's another thing and this is the problem with listening without some discernment in meetings, because you'll get brainwashed by well-meaning people with cute little catchphrases that have nothing to do with what's in the AA book. I'll give you another one. Now, this has nothing to do with the third step. But now when I was younger, now we're talking a long time ago now, when I was a teenager and in those years, then you'd hear it around AA room. Somebody would say, well, there's a slip under every skirt.
I haven't heard that in a while. I like
Now, what does that imply?
women.
No, yeah, but that implies that the woman is going to get you drunk,
She's
not
the-
you,
yeah.
not your dishonesty, not your crap.
Right.
It's got to be the woman.
Right.
See?
It's her fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's clever and it's cute, but it's BS
Yes.
beyond belief, because it makes victims of people, and AA doesn't do that. We participate a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I like
That's
that.
a whole nother subject, you know. So, just what do we mean by the third step, and just what do we do? Well, he says the first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. Any life run on self-will. Well, that's exactly what my life was. Nothing but self-will. And it was not a success.
No.
I lost everything.
Yep.
Everything I valued was stripped from me.
And not just material stuff.
No, but that was the stuff I was really attached to.
Yeah.
You know,
No.
for me.
We're on different timing there.
What's
Yeah,
that?
it's a 5-second delay. That's why it sucks. It's hard. Don't listen to the don't listen out there. No, the speaker, the sounds that they're listening to out there, it's about a 5-7.
Okay.
We're good. We're fine.
Okay.
A little confusing. Put your headphones on. That makes it way easier. Sorry.
So, on that basis, living on self-will. Now, first of all, what's self-will look like? I want what I want. I want things my way. If we're in the living room watching television and I got the remote control, we're watching what I want to watch.
Mhm.
If we go out to movies, we're going to movies I want to see.
Yeah.
I'll listen to your opinion, but it doesn't matter. We're still going where I want to go. We go to restaurants, same thing.
What I want to eat, where I want to go.
Always. And I'll lie about it, you know.
Mhm.
You know, I had a bad meal there.
Yeah,
You know,
I see. What
I
you
saw that movie. I didn't see the movie. I just want to go somewhere else. That's all. Just lie about it, you know. That's what self-will looks like.
my
yeah.
way.
Well, what happens? On that basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. Why would I be in collision with something or somebody if I had good motives? Well, that sentence bothered me a lot.
I
What?
can because hey, if I mean my intentions are good here, I don't mean no harm. I'm trying to do this for the best.
Well, I tell you how it came to me. I was trying to keep a roof over my kids' head, food on their table.
Yep.
That's a good motive.
Yeah.
But I was doing it at your expense.
Never home. Yeah. No,
Whenever I come in contact with you in a business deal or anything, selling a car, whatever, somebody's going to have to get the short end, and it's not going to be me.
Mm-mm.
It's going to be you.
Mhm.
And nobody seemed to care that I had good motives. They didn't care because they were losing in the exchange. So that's why on that basis of living on self-will, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. You can have the best motives in the world, but when you're doing it at other people's expense to get what you want, you're
Was
going
it-
to be in conflict.
It was you or I had a guest on who shared something about this, and I think we're on this topic that they're working. They couldn't be around for the kids. They couldn't be at home for the wife, and there was a gathering. People were over. Well, yeah. That's not my story to tell. Where you're sleeping, I think.
And the coats were thrown.
Yeah,
That's Rick.
your intentions were good though. You're trying to put food on the table and money in the
Well, I was
bank
doing
and-
a lot of crystal meth, and I was trying to keep the house out of foreclosure and
Yeah.
keep all the balls in the air. I wasn't drinking at that point because I couldn't deal with alcohol anymore. It was killing me physically. But, you know, in the family, I mean, Pam was pissed all the time because I wasn't home. I wasn't around.
That's his
And
baby's
when I
mom,
was
ex-wife.
around, I was sleeping because I'd be out on a run for 3 weeks, 2 weeks. I had a store, antique plumbing fixture store. Then I'd go home and sleep for 3-4 days. And then I'd get up and do it. And she'd have birthday party for the kids or something, and I can't show up. And they're throwing coats on the bed, and I'm in the bed.
Mhm.
Think that was a little embarrassing for her.
Well,
I didn't think anything of it.
Isn't that this right? Your intent. I mean, this is what we're talking about here, right?
Well, I'm trying to take care of all this stuff, and there's problems with
okay.
there's problems with her because she won't get a driver's license and drive a car, and then I got to do all that stuff and all the shopping and all, you know. And there was just a lot of stuff. So I'm working all the time, but I'm also just using too
Right.
with my buddies, you know, even though we're working at times,
Yeah.
you know. But I remember one of my friends, Roy Sheely, his dad wanted he lived next door to his dad, and he wanted a sink put in, and I went over there at like 10 o'clock at night to do it because it was the only time I had. And I mean, I'm 10 o'clock, I'm going to go put a bathroom sink in the guy's house. And I don't think anything of this stuff. I mean, isn't that normal?
Hmm. See,
I'm
the
speeding.
funny thing is, I can relate because I did the same
Yeah.
shit back then.
Yeah, his dad used to say things like, "What the hell's wrong with that guy?" You know. Well,
Yep,
did a
That's
good
the
job. you
crystal
know.
days.
So that's what it is. Why you're in collision or conflict with something or somebody, even though you got good motives. You can have the best motives in the world, but if you're taking advantage of other people,
Right.
you're going to be in conflict. Then he says in here, he says, most people try to live by self-propulsion. So it's not just alcoholics, right?
Mm.
Other people live this way. How come I end up having to go to jail?
Hmm.
How come I got to be removed from society and put in a cage? It's called jail. I mean, other people live by self-propulsion. How come I got to go to AA? Ordered maybe to go.
Ordered.
Yeah. By the courts. Other people live by self-propulsion. You know what it dawned on me one day? I just do it with more enthusiasm than other people do it. Full speed ahead, man. Everything is done with great enthusiasm. Yeah, that's what it was. And that's why. I was coming back from a conference, and I was sitting next to a veterinarian, a guy about my age. Nice man. You can just feel it. You know when you're sitting with somebody who's decent. You know, you can just feel it.
Good person.
Yeah. Wasn't an alcoholic, and I'm talking to him about the very thing we just read. And he looks at me and he says, you know, whenever I run into a conflict, he's talking about now this collision conflict. He says, I do something. He says, I step back and I ask myself two questions. And I thought it was interesting the order he asked the questions of himself. And the first one he says was, am I doing something that's causing this problem? Now, I wouldn't have asked it in that order. I'd have asked, is the other guy doing something?
Oh,
See,
yeah.
but he asked, am I doing something that's causing this conflict? Then he would say, if he was clear that he wasn't, then is the other guy doing something? What's going on here? Why are we having this issue? That's what a normal guy does. I said, I'm kind of like you. When I run into a conflict, I step back too, so I can get a bigger run at the guy. I'm going to roll over him to get what I want.
Right.
I'm going to push it until I want what I want. Now, this is something that had to change, or you don't have any friends or nobody wants to be around you. When you're living like this, and I was living like this all the time, and I had all kinds of conflict from when I was younger. You know, I had a buddy that I went and saw. He was in hospice, and a friend of mine from AA went with me, and we were talking. He's dying. I mean, he's right on within a day of dying. And he's pissed off at me because of the way I was, because of what we're talking about. He died with that grievance, you know, and I don't even know what the hell it was, but he was angry about something. He brought it up. I don't remember what it was now. Probably deserved it, you know.
Probably deserved it.
No, I say I probably deserved it.
Yeah, you probably deserved it.
Right.
Still never found out what it was?
I don't remember. It was a
Oh,
long
was it
time ago.
Scott?
You know.
Was it Scott?
No, it was a guy named Pat.
Oh.
Guy I went down the river on the raft with.
Oh.
So, most people
The handle.
try to live by self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show. You ever seen that guy?
Me.
The guy who wants to run the whole show
Yeah.
is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, the podcast. No, it doesn't say podcast. It says,
Hey, someone just told me about Rule 62, or what was it? Rules. Is that what it is? Rule 62, right? Yeah. Someone, a group of old timers were at Fridley were making jazz. Oh, hey, there's old 62. I was like, what? Oh, bro, Rule 62, Tim. I was like, what? I get up to the meeting. I'm like, yeah, you got an ego problem, dude. I was like,
Yeah.
what? Me? You're the podcast guy, right? I was like, yeah.
Don't take yourself so seriously.
That's exactly what
That
the
was
one guy
Rule
said.
62.
He's like, you being offended by this validates me saying Rule 62 to you. Like, it's don't be so, yeah. It sounded like they just, why you so serious?
What that's based in is they sent out early on in AA to all the groups because they had all these, they were going to write the traditions, you know, and get some clarity on how to keep the groups together. And they asked all the groups in a test to find out how many rules and regulations they had to become a member of their group. And they all wrote back in and they had 61 of them. And they made the determination that they would make Rule 62. Don't take yourself so damn seriously. That's where that come from.
I didn't know. Yeah, these old timers got to me.
That's what that was about. So that's what Rule 62 is. Don't take yourself so damn seriously.
That's funny. It is
Think you're so important, you know? So, but they're talking about each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way. Yeah, he's trying to control and get what he wants, right? If his arrangements would only stay put, if only people would do as he wished, the show would be great. Isn't that what you think when you're pushing to trying to get your way?
And to be honest with you, I still have those types of feelings at times. I do. God, if you just shut up and let me show you, let me do it my way. My brain does it.
Right.
I don't act on it like I once did, but I understand this.
Mhm.
We just went through this in our men's meeting, and we're at this area in the book. And to be open and honest about it, I still have this stuff come up. Time
So-
doesn't equal recovery.
So if his arrangements would only stay put, right? If only people would do as he wished, the show would be great. He's just a fellow actor. He's not the director. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. If you guys would just do what I tell you, we'd have a great time, great relationships, everything would be great. Just listen to me, I know. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased, right? Life would be wonderful. In trying to make these arrangements, our actor may sometimes be quite virtuous. He may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. As long as you're playing your part properly and acting the way I want you to act,
Yeah.
then I'll be that way. I'll even give a little. I'll be modest and I'll be self-sacrificing. On the other hand, this is when it didn't work by
Here's the other
being
hand.
kind. He may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he is more likely to have varied traits. So in other words, generally people will try and be decent to get what they want.
To get what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people, like the guy on the plane, once he realizes if he's doing something that's causing, he'll back up. But that's not what I would do. I'm going to push harder.
forward.
I'm going to push through it, you know? So but as with most humans, he is more likely to have varied traits. I won't be all one way or the other. I'll be a mixture. So what usually happens? I went to jail. I went to treatment. That's what usually happens. Didn't that happen to you?
Both, yes. And then I got a divorce. So kind of,
Another?
yeah, the third one.
Oh, really?
No, not third
Oh.
divorce, like
The
jail,
third-
treatment,
okay, yep.
and then divorce.
Yeah.
Didn't go my way.
No.
Took the institution route.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Was forced into it.
Mm.
So what usually happens? The show doesn't come off very well, does it, when you're living this way?
No.
Now keep in mind that this is a description of what it looks like to live on self-will and trying to run the show as a
It's freaking
actor who's
tiring.
not the director.
Yeah.
Just a fellow actor in this drama of life. But it's also a description of how the mind becomes resentful. They're going to give us the process that it goes through. What usually happens, the show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think life doesn't treat him right.
Oh,
Yeah, life's not treating me right.
not fair.
So he decides to exert himself more. Yeah, going to push a little harder. He becomes on the next occasion still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be. I'll become more demanding to get what I want, or I'll become more gracious. But either way, I'm what? Manipulating, trying to get what I want. Still, the play does not suit him. Now, here it comes. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, he is sure that other people are more to blame.
Oh, always.
I'm willing to admit I'm somewhat at fault,
A little bit. A little.
but I'm sure that other people are more to blame.
Always.
So what comes of that? He becomes angry, indignant, self-pitying. I become angry, I get indignant with people, and I feel sorry for myself because I'm not getting what I want.
It's almost a full circle of this. The way you explain this, it's what I want it to go my way, and it's not going my way. Boo hoo, poor me. This ain't fair. Well, it's all because I needed it to go my way.
All right.
Yeah.
What is his basic trouble? Now, this is a rough sentence for people who think of themselves as good people. Is he not really a self-seeker even when trying to be kind? Am I not a self-seeker? Yeah. Even when I'm being kind?
You're disguising it. It's wrapped up.
Yeah. But I'm pretending like I'm not. Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if he only manages well? Is it not evident to all the rest of the players that these are the things he wants? And do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show? Is he not, even in his best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? It's like in a play, and one of the actors decides to upstage the other actors, make his part more important. And what happens? It makes the other actors wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get from the show. That's right. Is he not, even in his best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? Why? Because sometimes I'm kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing, and sometimes I'm mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But either way I'm playing it, I'm trying to manipulate an outcome. And what's the outcome that I end up with? I end up angry. I end up pissed off. People don't like it.
No, and I never want to look at the self part. When I'm doing this, I don't want to look at the self-centric, the self-ego, the self-centeredness. I look at the part where I was in harmony and the only good shit. Why this happened to me? I was nice during this little bit of time, but I don't want to look at the.
You see, this is really tough on people who think of themselves as good people
I see what
and
you
not
mean, though.
self-serving.
Right.
But that sentence, what is his basic trouble? Is he not really a self-seeker, even when trying to be kind? Now, that's tough on people who think of themselves as kind. Luckily, I escaped that because I never thought of myself as good.
Do you think that made it easier for you or easier for the transition part?
It made it easier for the awareness of what was going on. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I never thought of myself as good. I didn't think of myself as bad. And I still don't. I'm not bad. I'm not trying to cause problems for other people. I'm not malicious that way. People would get caught up in my stuff.
Even back then, you weren't malicious that way.
Well, I wasn't trying. Well, in a sense, I wasn't trying to cause you a problem. But if there was going to be a problem,
it was going to be not
it's
me.
going to be you, not me.
Right.
See,
Okay.
so that was self-preservation, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
You know. Well, I didn't want to cause a problem for others, but I knew when I was very young, and I mean very young, I mean 5 years old, I knew that I was self-serving. I knew if I did something for someone, I wanted something. I knew that about myself. Now, an awful lot of people who think of themselves as good, they can't see that. They don't know they're self-seeking. They can't see it.
No.
It's covered. It's covered up. So they got to back out the idea that they're actually good and not self-seeking to see that they are self-seeking. And that's why that sentence is, That, am I not what the hell? is it?
Self-seeker. even-
Self-seeker even when trying to be kind. Yeah. Even when trying to be kind. That is not easy to look at if you think of yourself as a good person. Who wants to look at that? But yet I'm in conflict and I got resentments. You know, people who think of themselves as good have a lot of resentments. They don't want to, and they don't think they should have them. So they don't think they do sometimes. But they have them.
I think it's a big ego for me, because I can relate exactly what you're saying. There was, and it wasn't all the time. Not all the time that I think I was a good person, but there would be spurts where I know I'm being good to people. Well, my motives weren't there, and I did get resentments because, hey, well, I'm being nice here.
I'll give you an idea that might help with all this. Jesus didn't have trouble with people who thought they were bad. He had trouble with people who thought they were good.
100%.
Read the stories.
Because if you think you're good, you're not, you have no, you're not, you have no faults.
Mhm.
That's right. And if there's a conflict, it's the other guy.
It's 100%.
I don't
see-
own a mirror for that reason. No, I'm joking.
You see, when I would get in conflict, I knew that I could very likely be the problem, but I didn't care because I just wanted what I wanted. This is not good, but it is a step ahead of the guy who doesn't know.
Right.
Okay. But it's not good because I didn't give a damn. I knew I was doing things that were causing problems.
But you
And I
didn't
didn't
care. Yeah.
That is not, now it almost looks like you're a sociopath, but I'm not. You know why? Because I knew that I was doing something wrong. I knew I was doing something wrong. So this one sentence too, is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if he only manages well? I'm a victim of my own delusion that if I just manage well, I can get what I want. And I'm hell bent on being happy, so I'm managing. And is it not evident to all the rest of the players that these are the things he wants? But that thing, do not my actions make others wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show. This is a big deal when you look at this.
It's how it works.
You know, he goes on, I don't know how much time we've been going here.
It's a- Shit, hour and a half already.
Have we really?
Wow.
Well, I'll shut this up here in a minute.
Whatever you want. You know how it is with me. I know you got to get scooting pretty quick, but that's
At the top of the page on 62, it says selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles.
this is where we get deep. And I love your take on this.
Alcohol's not the root of my troubles. Selfishness is. Why would selfishness be the root of my troubles? Well, it's exactly what we just read about the actor. You end up with resentment. And why do guys drink? Over their resentments. People stay drunk forever on that stuff. You know? So the resentment's hurting me, not the guy I'm angry at. Selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. Now, does that mean I'm bad? Well, I'll give you a dictionary definition of selfish. I looked this up in Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, to be exact. Here's what it said. Concerned excessively or exclusively with oneself. Seeking or concentrating on one's own advantage, pleasure, or well-being without concern for others. Well, if I'm concerned excessively or exclusively with myself, how could I have concern for anybody else? By definition, you wouldn't be
Right.
able to.
By definition.
Does
you're-
that mean you're
Yeah.
bad? No, it means you're selfish. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just that's what you're doing. Look at it factually. Why is that important? Because you won't look at the selfishness if you think you're going to be bad. And every time you read those sentences, you'll go, Nope, not me. Not going to look at it. I won't be honest. This is a big deal. Driven by 100 forms of fear. What am I afraid of?
Everything.
I'm afraid I won't get what I want. I'm selfish. I'm afraid I'll lose what I got. I'm selfish. I'm driven by 100 forms of that fear. Self-delusion, we talked about that. Self-seeking, I'm only concerned about Rick. And self-pity, huh? I feel sorry for myself when I don't get what I want. What happens? We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate.
Mm.
Is that what's been going on in my life? I've been stepping on the toes of others. You say, well, people have been doing things to me too. Well, he handles that in the next.
Yeah.
He says, sometimes they hurt us. Yeah, seemingly, big word, seemingly without provocation. But we invariably find that at some time in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to get hurt.
This stuff's really important. I think this, what you're going over, it's still to this day, it's important in my life to be happy.
Well, you get at different
find peace.
levels of this, see, and you see it in yourself. Sometimes it's real coarse and harsh at first,
Mm-hmm.
but as you go along, you start getting more refined, and you see even with some of your refinedness, you're playing games, you're manipulating people, you found a little more clever way to do it.
Yep. Imagine that.
But sometimes people are hurting me, but this seemingly, it always seems like I didn't provoke it. But we invariably find, this is a 4-step idea.
Mm-hmm.
We invariably find that at some time in the past, I've made decisions based on self, what I want, Rick's will, which later placed me in a position to get hurt. You're in a crack house in the middle of the night with a fistful of hundreds. You could get robbed. You could get raped. You could get beaten. You could get all kinds of things could happen to you in those environments. Is it okay that so? No, of course not. It's wrong. But did I put myself in positions to have these experiences? Can you be honest enough? Usually not when you've got a life of being a victim.
Yeah.
And you're hell bent on being a victim.
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. And the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot. Though he usually doesn't think so. He never thinks so. It's always the other guy.
Mm.
I'm an extreme, look at the words he uses, extreme example. Now, self-will run riot's pretty bad anyway, but an extreme example of it, that's pretty
Extreme.
extreme.
Heavy.
Then he says, above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. So, above everything, we must be rid of this selfishness.
Thank you, Jennifer, for being here. She got to go. Bye.
So it's not alcohol. It's not drugs. It's selfishness. And above everything, we must be rid of this selfishness.
Well, for me, it's that full circle thing again. Until it was laid out, and there was something inside me I knew, when I was being how I worked, piece of shit before I walked in these doors, and before I learned a little bit of this. It was full circle once I started learning this. This all came back to me in my actions. The world's not out to get me. It all came back to me by what I was doing, my part, or the actions I put out there.
Well, above everything, we must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us.
Mm.
It kills us. Why? Because people drink over it. And the guys who wrote this book would go into withdrawals from the booze, and they were dying from the withdrawals.
Yeah.
So it was killing them. Not directly, indirectly.
Indirectly, a result of
Yes. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. You ever hear anybody talk about that sentence in an AA meeting? Getting rid of self. We're trying to get rid of ourselves. What does that mean? It means we're trying to get rid of our egos, our ego self. What is that? That's my human nature. Your human nature is not good. It's bad. If there wasn't a spark of spirit in us, we'd be fist fighting in every AA meeting.
Nonstop.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're trying to get rid of self. So what does that mean? What if I let go of what I'm not? What would emerge is what I am.
Say that again.
What if I let go of what I'm not? The resentments, the fears, the whatever. What would be left? Well, Bill talks about this in the 12 and 12. It would be like the hole in the donut. No, you wouldn't. What would be left is your spiritual nature. That's what would emerge if you let go of what you're not. Your true nature would come to the forefront. So you don't have to do something to be spiritual. Get the crap out of the way, and that's all that'll be left. Look, there's quite a bit here to read and a lot of conversation about it that we probably don't have time for. But I do want to get to the prayer, because the third step prayer,
It's over on the next page, about halfway through.
I made a commitment when I was 3 weeks sober. I said I'll do anything, and I meant anything. And I have not lost that commitment. And that decision is still in force 37 years later. It's still in force.
Is there anything you would do to
I'm not going back to that life.
that life?
I am
You'll
not, I have no desire. I am not. If that means I got to go to some AA meetings, if that, whatever it means, I'm going to do it.
I have a question about that, and I know this is off topic, and
It's mostly doing 12-step work.
is service work. Is let me see how that was worded. Yeah, this is kind of off topic, but it goes to this. When you brought up you do anything, did your sponsor ask you, "Hey, Rick, what lengths are you willing to go?"
I didn't
For
know
this.
my sponsor.
Okay, so it
He
was
didn't come
something
into the-
in your head. You said, "You know what? I'll do whatever it frickin' takes for me not to go back to that life."
I am going to change because I was so insecure in the pain of the resentments and the insecurity that I felt when I'd be around people, and everything was so intense that I absolutely threw myself into reading all the AA stuff. I studied the book. I studied other books written about AA, but mostly early on, I read only things with circles and triangles on them. The circle with the triangle in the center is AA's sanction of the literature.
Yep.
Okay. The literature is sanctioned. Why? Because it has consistency of message. That was the purpose of it. So I read things because I didn't want any confusion in my mind. And all I'm reading is AA stuff.
the
And then
same,
I
yeah.
started to branch out after that. Okay.
Once you got a grip
After I
on-
settled down a little bit
All right.
and was able to. But that was important for me to do.
So what do they call it? AA approved literature? Or what you stuck to a brand?
Well, they were
yeah.
AA approved literature.
Yeah.
And then I branched out into other things. And then I met my sponsors. I wrote the inventory and stuff without a sponsor. The book was designed to be able to work this program through this process with the book, not with a sponsor feeding you his perspective on things.
You do know, though. I mean, just between you do understand a lot of people didn't manage. Now, how do I word? A lot of people couldn't do that. A lot of people weren't able to figure out how to
Couldn't or wouldn't?
I guess that is the key word here, huh? I know. I don't know. I personally tried reading through the book ahead of time, and I'm maybe making excuses.
Reading through it is one thing. Doing it is
See, and I
another.
don't, maybe it's the comprehension. I don't know if I'm making excuses or not, but once I went, matter of fact, the way my sponsor and I did it, he read to me.
Sure.
He read to me.
Well, that's what we do in the workshop.
Yeah. Just like same deal. Same.
Right.
It was in,
Right.
there was more benefit for me at that point going through it than when I tried solo. But then again, I'm not a guy who can pick up a book. I've yet to pick up books, and I can listen to books on tape real well. That's what I do all day while I work. I'm at like 140 books this year listening. It's whatever. I sit down and read a book. My brain wanders. Now, funny thing
why?
is when I was locked
You know
up,
how to get over that?
how? Read out loud?
Read it to somebody else.
See, it's we. I don't know. When we had someone on the show, we went down
Sit
a
down
rabbit
and
hole.
read the big, I had that same problem. And when I read a paragraph I could not understand nor retain, a dozen times reading, I opened the book and read it to another person, and it changed me entirely.
You know what else did help a little was things changed a little after TM for me.
Well, of course.
It's something about shutting my brain off while I'm reading. I always validate. I can read.
Read it
I
to
swear I
somebody
can
else.
read, but it's my brain starts wandering while I read.
Read it to somebody else. She's reading me something, a spiritual thing in the Course in Miracles every morning.
Mhm.
Okay.
It makes a difference for you.
It does, but I get like you. I start wandering like because it's sometimes late.
I gotta
morning,
tell her
I'm
to
working.
slow it down
Yeah, and I
sometimes.
speed through it.
You can tell when her brain goes over here.
And it
Yeah.
but it just goes off, and he slows me down and brings me back, and it's very helpful.
Weird thing. When I was locked up, I could read I could get into the books, pictures, or a movie was going
Well, you
on.
didn't have all this other distractions. See,
I don't. Yeah, and like I said, TM closed it slowed things down for me.
Right.
Something.
right.
I need to come get a refresher on that too. You said anytime you want, I'm gonna hold you to that.
So,
Okay.
so anyway, okay. So we come up against this third step prayer. Now, I made this decision that I'll do anything, and I've never looked back. That decision is still in force. I'll do anything. Now, my sobriety, if it was dependent on belief, I never would have stayed sober because I didn't believe. My sobriety has been dependent on a commitment that I made, and the
Self.
commitment carried me when I didn't believe.
The commitment carried you when you didn't believe.
Right.
Okay.
That's the way a commitment is. It's like a decision. You put action on it. The commitment carried me. If my sobriety would have been dependent on belief, I'd have been drunk a long time ago. Because I didn't
Oh yeah,
believe.
like you said, you came in.
And you guys know you people who do believe, you know that sometimes you have a lot of faith and sometimes you're empty. And when you're empty, if your sobriety is dependent on your belief, you're
you're
screwed.
screwed.
But you're not if you have a commitment.
I like that. It's almost like a loophole there.
You're not if you made the commitment and you're staying with it. But that's what a commitment is. You stay with it.
Right.
You know? So we come up against this third step prayer. Now remember, selfishness is the problem. Why? Because if you're trying to turn your will and life over to God, all right, let's say you believe in God. Doesn't really matter. But let's say you believe.
You have a faith, a
Okay,
belief.
you
Yeah.
have a belief. Okay. Selfishness takes.
Okay.
Selfishness is trying to get something. I want something. I'm
Yep.
manipulative. That's the story of the actor. Selfishness takes, love gives. Now, this is how basic it really is. The third
Selfishness
step-
takes, love gives.
Yeah, love gives. Okay, that's pretty simple. Most people can grasp that. Doesn't
Yep.
matter what you believe in. If you're thinking about love, if you're loving, you're giving. Taking is meaningless to love.
Taking is meaningless to love.
Yeah. Because love is all encompassing. Taking is meaningless. Love can't take. Get in a relationship and try and get somebody to love you.
Good luck.
You'll feel
Good luck.
empty.
Yep. Good
You'll
luck.
feel empty. And then the more empty you feel, then you want to take more and manipulate more. And that empties you out even more. And then you take even more until the relationship, the person can't stand it.
Shit.
And they just leave. They can't take it. Oh, yeah.
She just doesn't want to accept
You-
my love.
You cannot take
Forcing it.
love. You can only give love if you're going to feel it. You don't feel love by trying to take it because it's impossible.
Doesn't work.
They're in
that way.
opposition to each other. So I get sober. I was a thief in terms of material things.
Mhm.
I was stealing in terms of relationships, trying to get what I want, manipulate things. I get sober, I look back and I saw something that shocked me. I took and took and took until I had nothing left.
That's like Confucius. That's deep. Say it again. You took and took and took until you had nothing left.
Oh, you don't have to believe me. Look at your life.
No, that's
Before you
facts.
get to AA, what do you got? What do you got left when you walk into an AA room? Nothing.
nothing.
Nothing. Have you been receiving what you've been giving? That's the Christian said, what you sow, you'll reap. Of course, I didn't like them, so I didn't listen to them. But on the streets, it was what goes around comes around.
Yeah. Karma.
Yeah. You're going to receive what you give. Well, if you're taking, then you're going to lose, aren't you?
Yeah.
So clearly, then, any taking is going to be loss. Any giving is going to be gain. So if I took and took and took until I had nothing left, how about I give and give and give until I have everything?
There's a concept.
It's a reversal of the selfishness. That's what the third step is. It's a reversal of selfishness. Selfishness is the problem. So now we're going to reverse it by giving.
When did you come to this conclusion?
It's
a question.
Well, a lot of it just came over a period of time, you know. I mean, a lot of what I'm talking about is I don't know how to put it. It's years of doing things wrong, experiencing it in the negative, having, you know.
I know we've had a couple questions come in this last one. I know that's what you take and take and take until you have nothing left, and you give and give and give until your cup is filled.
Then you won't
And
put
that-
demands on anybody. You know, those who see themselves as whole make no demands. It's when you see yourself as lacking that you start demanding of others
You
that
talked to
they,
him about writing a book.
that they satisfy you.
This type of shit. No,
Yeah.
I'm serious. The way you're wording a guy like me, I'm comprehending what you're saying. A lot of people have said it in multiple different ways, but and that's what the question was where did you come to this realization about you take and take and take until
I got beat. I saw it from my experience in life. It ain't rocket science. Look at your life. What do you got left when you walk into AA? Nothing. What have you been doing? Taking. What does AA do? Let's go out and do some 12-step work and give.
give.
How do you feel when you do that? Better. Then why wouldn't you do a lot of it? I did. That's all I did. I didn't try and get the family back. I couldn't try and
Yeah, you share about that.
Oh, I
That-
stopped.
That was
all
when
that.
depression, when things what you realized, wasn't that you? You said you realized that when you're down or whatever, you'd feel better at the end of these days, and you realize that was the days I was doing some 12-step work
Yeah.
or service work and
Yeah.
give.
Nothing noble about doing service work. Don't start patting yourself on the back, or you'll make a big ego trip out of
Don't
it.
tell me
And
that.
people will say, "Oh, you're such a good guy. Look at all the stuff you do." Boy, let that go in one ear and out the other. Because if you stop it in between,
Yeah,
you're gonna really be a
Ego,
big
no.
ass. You know.
that's where they talk. When no one's looking. What am I? The word?
A good is
When no one's look. God dang, what's the word I'm thinking? Integrity. That's a big part of that. Integrity. You know, I'm doing these things and I don't
Yeah,
care.
but you know the word itself it's an easy thing to just say integrity, but what the hell does it even mean? You know.
We brought this up before and we went down a hole on this one. I remember. Because you're right though. It's egotistical in itself, that word. To speak on what you I don't know. But you're right. Let it go in one
You
ear
see,
and right out the other.
You see, the thing with AA that I think is so brilliant is that we're not talking about being good. This is what offended me about religious people. They were talking all the time about being good. You got to do good works. You got to do this. We're gonna build a big good ego, and then you become a big ass often, or sometimes anyway,
Oh,
and
a lot of
start
the
pushing
time.
it at other people if you don't have any awareness. You have to have awareness of how you impact others when you're so-called trying to be good. AA doesn't say be good. It says drop the selfishness. You'll just be good. You don't have to do anything then to be good. Just quit being selfish and you'll naturally be good. It's not addition. It's all subtraction.
And I wonder, and try to regurgitate Bill's questions. It's same thing. How did you come to this? It's the question. How did you come to that conclusion? But
Through practicing the steps and having experiences.
because you didn't read what you shared, what you've just shared about, you didn't read that somewhere. This came to you through your life experiences with doing.
A lot of it, and some of it I may have read in different forms and different, but you apply it, and as you apply it, you realize that it's true. It doesn't even have to make sense to you. You just have to do it. Like a guy who died drunk. He had great quotes. He says, "It's Nike, not Nietzsche." Nietzsche was a philosopher.
Yep.
It's Nike, not Nietzsche. Just do it. He died drunk. He had all kinds of clever sayings.
Yeah.
He said one time he said another thing. He says the only time you put anybody on top of a pedestal is to slide a longer shaft under them. You put them up there and you set them up to kill them. Well, isn't that what you do? Now the guy can't live
Right.
up to your ideal,
Pedestal shit.
And then when he doesn't, what do?
Yeah.
You murder him.
Yeah. We hear that.
You
Don't-
slander him. You do something.
We put him on a pedestal.
Hmm.
That kind of same thing. Someone explained that when I early recovery, my higher power was you can have whatever you want as a higher power. Well, that'll be my mom. Till some old timer explained to me, well, she's gonna make a mistake, Tim. You're gonna put her on this pedestal. And I was
Oh, you're
rebellious.
a killer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a setup to attack them.
yeah. That's exactly how it was worded to me. That's not fair to your mom.
No.
It's not fair to what you're trying to do in life today. And they explain, and I was so, no, my mom she's blah, 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 blah. She's infallible, Tim. She's going to make mistakes. And if you put her on this pedestal, you're setting her up for failure, yourself up for failure. I'm fortunate someone broke it down for me. I didn't have to figure it out myself, but
That's why this is a spiritual program.
yes.
It's not a self-help program.
You guys hear what he said, right? It's a spiritual program, not a religious program.
And what does that mean? It means reliance upon something greater than yourself and beyond the world. The creative energy that created all things. That's the way the Maharishi, Mahesh Yogi talks about it, who brought TM to this country, taught the Beatles.
And remember, guys, he started this show with saying he came in here as an atheist. You didn't have to be a knee-hitting religious girl to find this solution.
You know how I came to believe? I took actions I didn't believe in, and I got results I couldn't deny. That's how I came to believe.
You know I love that saying. It's going to be on the walls here. You'll see.
It came out of my mouth one time. Somebody asked me how I came to believe. That's all I said to it. Just came right out. I didn't even think about it. So the third step prayer. I just want to close with this.
Yeah.
We are now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker, as we understood him, we experience him, not conceptualize. Understood, not understand. Okay, God, I offer myself to you to build with me and to do with me as you will. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do your will. Take away my difficulties that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of God's power, God's love, and God's way of life. May I do God's will always. We thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. So what does that prayer say in the middle of it? It says, relieve me of the bondage of self. Now, why would I be asking for that? Because self takes from life. And I can't do love's will if I'm taking from life. So I'm saying, relieve me of the bondage. It's bondage. That's depression. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do your will. Can't do love's will. I can't do it if I'm taking. Then it says, take away my difficulties. Here again, for my sake. No, it says, take away my difficulties, that victory over them, that victory over my difficulties may bear witness to those I would help. Of God's power, not Rick's power. God's love, God's way of life. I saw this demonstrated right in front of my face, and I didn't even know it when I was new in the program.
What do you mean?
I was at 2218 in a men's group, and these guys knew that I was new, and I walked in there. They're all 20, 30-year guys, and they knew I was in trouble, man. They knew what I was experiencing. And I sat down, and nothing funny about my life, man. My life is a tragedy. And they start talking. One guy starts talking, and he's telling a story about something that's killing me, and he's not burdened by it. He's lighthearted. Then the next guy tells another story, something similar, a different form, and another thing. It might have to do with his family or something. He lost his family, same things that happened to me. He's not burdened by it. He's lighthearted. Went around the room like that, and I thought, how the hell did you guys get to where you are from where I am? I'm disturbed by all this loss.
Dang.
This shit's killing me,
Yeah.
and it's not bothering you guys anymore. So somehow you clearly had the problem, and you're beyond it. I wanted what they had in the worst way. What were they doing? They were demonstrating right in front of my face the third step prayer. Their difficulties had been removed, and victory over them was bearing witness to me that this works. I saw it happen. I didn't think of it in terms of the third step prayer.
I was going to say, I already know it's going to come in. When did you realize this? Because you've shared about this before. When did that, was it, it was pretty quick in that meeting.
That experience happened to me within a month, probably, as being sober, but I didn't equate it to the third step prayer until years later.
Right.
And I look back on it and I went, my God, those guys were demonstrating it. And that's why it was so impactful, because they were literally doing it. They
Live
were
and
witnessing
yes.
to the power of the program, and they were not burdened by that stuff that was killing me. So that was a big deal. That was a real big deal. I never recovered from that. That's why it came back to me years later. So
That's awesome stuff. Serious. That's, well, you guys, as always, thank you both. Miss
by the
Steve
way, I
and
just
Rick.
want to make a
Yeah.
comment is that I never found a concept of God.
What do you mean?
I don't have a concept of God.
Today you still don't. There isn't
No.
a picture of some guy
No.
in a robe and a big beard.
No, you know what happened? The need for the concept went away. How? When I started to experience it. How did I experience it? Solutions to problems started to unfold in ways I never could have imagined a solution coming from. I couldn't take the credit, and it was good. And everybody won in circumstances where normally there'd be a loser because I'd be
Ah.
directing it.
Verse, yeah, the director of the play that
That's
we
right.
read about early.
That's right.
So it's just through life experience, time of doing this longer and longer. Your concept.
I don't have a
there's no-
concept of God. I don't need a concept.
you don't need one. I
How
think
would
that's
I
the go- that's the key.
conceptualize something that's beyond the ability to understand?
Makes
To
sense.
conceptualize it would be to reduce it down to something that a human being could understand.
Did it go from the militant atheists of no belief to form into that? Was it? Did it?
Well,
you-
Thomas Aquinas, he had an experience. He was the big shot in the church
Yep.
of his time. And Thomas Aquinas, he'd been mouthing off in the church for many, many years. And one day at the altar, he had an experience that changed him.
Mm-hmm.
And what came from the experience was he had a thought, everything I ever thought, because of what was revealed to him, everything I ever thought was straw. Now he's been mouthing off about God, talking about God. And he realized he was full of shit. And he just shut up.
A bow of silence, or
He just stopped talking. And apparently, until he died, he quit. But he did say something somewhere, I wrote it or something. He said, the highest form that he thought anyway of knowing God is to know that you don't know.
in a way of what you're saying, I have no concept of God. There's no. When you say no concept of God, you mean like you don't have a picture of what it looks like, or
No. I don't have a clue, nor do I care. I'm more honest with myself.
I think
about
that
this.
that you don't
It's an
care.
honesty
It's-
issue.
Yeah, that's huge. I think the part where you say, "And I don't care," you don't need to know.
I know that I don't know. It's the guys who know that can be real trouble. Like Jesus said, or what was said about, he didn't have trouble with people who knew they were bad.
Right.
He had trouble with people that thought they were good.
that had the answers.
That's right.
Hmm.
So that's,
I hope you guys brought a shovel because this was deep. Brought a snorkel because we were down low. All right. Well, we've talked about your guys' superpowers. We've talked about. I've asked you guys your question on that, right? What was your superpowers? So we're going to talk about your gratitude for a sec. The name of the show is Attitude for Gratitude. So Misty, it's been about 4 weeks since I've seen you last. Tell me about your gratitude.
Today I'm grateful for letting my life just be as it is and not forcing it. I still go through the times where I try to force an outcome, but it's so much easier and so much better if I just let things be the way they are instead of having a concept in my mind what I want my life to be and then forcing it. So I can experience life instead of trying to make it happen.
Now I need you to pick a number 1 through 114 for your final question. 1 through 114.
8.
8.
8 is great.
If they made a movie of your life, which actor or actress would you want to play you?
Angelina Jolie.
That was like one of my favorite actors. But then her and her brother, some weird shit.
Yeah, they-
I don't know what happened there. Rick, name of the show is Attitude for Gratitude. What does your gratitude look like today?
I've got gratitude for the people in my life. Always. That's what it is, really. Drop the judgments and you'll have gratitude.
Drop the judgments and you'll have gratitude. I hope you guys are taking notes tonight too. Rick, pick a number between 1 and 114.
113.
113. What sport? All right, wait a sec. If you could eliminate one thing from your daily routine, what would it be?
If I could eliminate one thing,
I think the question is if you had to eliminate
if
one,
I had to
Yeah.
eliminate one thing from my daily routine,
what would it be?
work.
Work. I've got so many people. This is the most interaction I've had. Misty, one more time. Pick a number between 1 and 114.
Let's do number 1.
Number 1. If you could have an endless supply of food, what would you get?
An endless supply of food. Dog food for my dogs.
Oh, good thinking. I didn't think. All right, Rick.
Not for
1
me.
through 114.
13.
13. Morning or night person?
Night.
Well, most of my life it's been night. But I like the mornings too, but I generally stay up.
You're a night person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know what? Screw it. All right, you guys. I'll do one more then. Wow, what weird feedback. Misty, 1 through 114.
Let's do, what is my age? 47.
47. Who was your childhood actor crush
Childhood.
growing up? Who was that crush?
Oh, Fred Savage. Wonder
Really?
Years.
Wonder Years? Fred Savage?
So cute.
Oh, I
Who's
guess.
Fred Savage.
From the Wonder Years. Don't you remember that show? The Wonder Years.
Winnie.
Winnie was his girlfriend.
Yeah.
That was, I think, all us boys' little crush too.
I haven't watched television since Archie Bunker was on.
Yeah, I think this came on after the
Yeah, a
Obama.
little after.
They couldn't run that show today. All right, Rick. 1 through 114.
99.
99er. Nothing. If you had to teach a class on one thing, what would you teach?
On one thing, huh?
Only one topic. What would that topic be?
Probably meditation.
And you do great at it.
Transcendental.
Transcendental meditation.
Yeah.
You've got someone named Jared E. Rick is the realest one out there. Good stuff, guys. Thank you, Rick. A lot of people. Everyone who checked in tonight, thank you all. We appreciate
thanks.
you. This show doesn't slide on without you guys' support. And I just want to thank everyone who's been interacting all night. This whole thing right here, this TikTok thing, I don't know if it's working or not. And if it's not, sorry to you guys out there in TikTok land. But you guys, thank you. I appreciate you. And I appreciate you guys too. You know, I'm doing this, that, back and forth. we do this recovery thing. We like you every week now for 167 weeks now. I've been doing this, and it's my Friday night meeting. It's my Friday night speaker meeting that I get to interrupt the speakers. I love it. Rule 62. 4026 North Washington. That's where we're at right now. It's We'll Work for Recovery. And 7 days a week, we have stuff going on here every day. 7 p.m. evening meetings. Wednesdays at 5 p.m. is a men's meeting and a women's meeting separate. Every morning at 6:30 a.m., they have a structured Alcoholics Anonymous meeting called Solutions on 2nd Street. Tomorrow morning, there's a great Narcotics Anonymous meeting I go to that I share about. I just talk about it. It's called Scars and Tattoos. It's at the Art Shelf. It's also at Iktomi Tattoos. People go there and do artwork during the meeting and or just, fiddle and draw. There's tons of free art supplies. But it's a good meeting, but there's tons of stuff. You heard Rick talk about meetings at 2218. I brought up Serenity Village earlier, brought up Eagle Brook. We brought up Fridley, Allano, and Blaine, Allano, and New Hope, Allano. Tons of different places to find recovery. Tons. There's thousands of places in Minnesota. We had people in Rochester checking in tonight, and some people from up by Baudette area. So all around the state, there's recovery everywhere you go. Just got to find it. And if you have an issue finding it, I've got when and where books I can send you. I can show you which app we use. It's a meeting chair app, or you can call Intergroup, or you can download the NA app or the CMA app with all the phones and all that jazz nowadays. Otherwise, my number's going across the bottom of the screen. You can reach out to me directly. If I don't answer, call back, leave a text, or call Intergroup, or get one of these apps. But you're worth finding this stuff we talk about. If you're struggling, stick with, give yourself a chance. You're worth it. You're enough. If no one's told you today, you're enough. I know I'm not the best at this whole uplifting motivation stuff, but I can just speak from my own side of the street and tell you, you're worth it. If no one's told you today, you're worth doing this thing we talk about, we come on here and share about. We take actions and things we don't believe and get results we can't deny. Rick B. This here, the Soap of Hope. I'm excited for you. I want feedback from you. Every woman that comes in here, they love it for their face, and they just love it. It's all natural. It's anointed olive oil, coconut oil, distilled water lye, cinnamon, oatmeal, and love. The Soap of Hope. If you've been down here, you know all about this stuff. Chucky does the Armor of Yah. This soap, it's delicious. Come on down and get you some soap. And he doesn't sell the soap. If you want to donate, they'll take donations. That's same with the club. If we had Marty on here talking about he tides to this place, which I don't like how he worded it, but he gives. If you're able to give, come give. If you can't do that, come give time. If not, do some service work. You heard what Rick talked about. You heard what a lot of people talked about. We give our time. And if we're able to, that's what we get to do today. I have not heard many people share about relapsing after doing a 12-step call, taking someone through the book, or being of service. It's kind of a fail-safe. So, again, thank you all for checking in and supporting the show. We love you. Till next week. Next week is a big one. Come on, check us out. You'll see some advertisement throughout the week. Hopefully, I get this all tuned in better with all this stuff, but we'll see you next week. Love you. Adios.
I like those questions.
Yeah,
where do you get that?
I got big feedback. What right